What is going on? It is March 2012 and I am delivering my annual Bracketology report. So I'll just get right into it. I'm going to start in the East bracket where Syracuse got the #1 seed, and obviously the news came out today that Fab Melo is done due to eligibility issues, and that ruins the Syracuse 2-3 zone that they rely on. With him in the middle, the guys on the outside can't be as aggressive, and I didn't really like Syracuse before he went out anyways. I just don't like that zone in the tournament. I really like Ohio State out there, and I like Ohio State to win the whole thing. I think they have so many pieces that they don't need to go back to Sullinger every single night. They've got guys that can guard out on the wing. They've got athleticism, and they're really well coached, and they've played in the tough Big Ten. Don't be too shy about going after Wisconsin. I like them at a #4 seed. I have them in one of my Final Fours. I think they're tough, and again, another Big Ten team that's battle tested, and I think that they'll compete really well in the tournament. They've got a star player. They've got all the elements of a team that can do very well in the tournament. Go on down to the Midwest where North Carolina got the #1 seed. I think that is the best overall #1 seed in the tournament. And I think that the reason they're so good and going to be dangerous is because they have Kendall Marshall, who is on a team with a bunch of NBA draft guys. But as my boss says, he is the straw that stirs their drink. He's calm, he's a leader, and I think that he is exactly the type of guy that you need on a championship team. So I have them in the Final Four. I usually don't try to throw a bunch of #1 seeds in, but they are, I think, a lock to be in the Final Four, especially with the bracket that they're in. Keep an eye on that 7-10 game with St. Mary's and Purdue in that bracket. I like Purdue. I think that as a 10 seed, if they can get past St. Mary's, I think either them or St. Mary's would have a chance to compete with Kansas. But I like Purdue. I think that now that the expectations aren't as high as they've been the past few years, they'll have a chance with a bunch of upperclassmen to make a run. In the South, where Kentucky got the #1 seed, a lot of people are picking them. They're a trendy pick. They're young. They're talented. But that's been like every Kentucky team the past few years that hasn't been able to get it done. That's a really tough bracket. Duke's in that bracket. Baylor's out there. A lot of people like Baylor. And then obviously Indiana too, who beat them earlier in the year. Xavier is a trendy sleeper. I don't like Xavier as much as I like Colorado. I think that they could win that first round game against UNLV and then end up beating Baylor in the second round. I think Baylor's really good and really talented. But I don't know if I like them as a tournament team. Perry Jones is a really good player, but I think he's one of those guys that's going to be better in the NBA than he is in college, and besides him, that's a fairly young team. Quincy Acey's a senior, but two of their core guys are freshmen. And then down in the West, Michigan State got a #1 seed. It's tough to go against Izzo and to bet against them in the tournament with all the success that they have. I've only seen them play once this year, and to be completely honest, I didn't watch a whole lot of college basketball on TV this year. But I could see scoring being an issue for them with what I've seen. I've seen some of their scores, and I'm a little bit nervous that if they get down 8 in a game, or they get down, 7, that they can't manufacture a bunch of offense and get back into games. I think that one of the best first-round games in the whole tournament will be in that side of the bracket. Down in the West, when Long Beach State plays New Mexico. If Larry Anderson's healthy, Long Beach State has a chance to go really far, even as a 12 seed. I think they could get past UNLV, but even if they don't, I like whoever wins that game to knock off Louisville in the second round to get into the Sweet 16. But I like Long Beach State enough to make them a Final Four team in one of my brackets. Casper Ware is a stud, and if you've got a couple of really good guards, you've got a chance in the tournament. I'm not as into Murray State as a lot of people are. Every year, a lot of people ask who's going to be the 14-3 knockoff, and this year for me, it's BYU over Marquette. Marquette's a 3 seed, and they are really good. I think that the Big East was more watered down than a lot of people made it out to be this year. And I just like BYU as a tournament team, even though I know they lost a lot. They compete, and I think that they'll play well in the tournament. And then Missouri is my safe pick down there in the West. I like them. Great guards, and again, in a really, really good Big 12. They were really successful this year. One of my other thoughts on the tournament is don't be afraid to go after these teams in the West. Despite an absence from Pac-10 teams this year, the West Coast has some really good teams. I like San Diego State as a number 6 seed. I didn't talk about them, but I think that they could, win that first round game and then get past Georgetown and all of a sudden be in the Sweet 16. Same thing with Gonzaga. I think that if they can get past West Virginia, that'll be a slugfest with them and Ohio State, and that could be one of the best games of the second round if it goes down. And then, of course, I already talked about Long Beach. One sure bet, don't bet on Pat Knight's Lamar team beating Vermont in a playing game. I don't usually talk about playing games, but without saying anything disparaging against Pat Knight, I think it'll be really fun to cheer for Vermont tomorrow night. Pat Knight already told everybody why his team won't win and how bad they are, so don't be afraid to go for Vermont. Another thing to make sure you don't do when you do your brackets, don't be the guy that does 3 number 1 seeds and then does a number 2 seed in the Final Four, and you say that you're not throwing all number 1 seeds. If you do that, then you're basically a number 1 seed guy. And don't necessarily feel obligated to do 5 brackets if you're allowed 5 in a tournament pool. Don't gamble too much. It is really hard to win money on these things, and a lot of that money is just being thrown away. If you are going to get into a pool, let me plug Will Froelich and John Host's annual pool. They do a really good job. It's really well organized. Their payment structured well. You can just do it right online. And you can email me at coachlandon@yahoo.com if you have questions about that pool or questions about the tournament. Most importantly, enjoy this tournament. It's really fun. My favorite sporting event every single year. Hope this bracketology helps you out. Enjoy the games and enjoy the Final Four.